Hello and welcome back to Empyrion Galactic Survival. My name is Spanj and today I'm taking you through the 10 things that I wish I knew before playing Empyrion. Number 10 for me is structural integrity. Now I don't know about you, but when I built my first base I had no idea what I was doing and was just placing blocks to build a basic cube, a bit like this, minding my own business, when suddenly it collapsed. Now of course in hindsight, well, yeah, duh, you're trying to build far too long and you have no support. And I should have done something like that. But of course, what else I could have done is hit the old N key here, gone to debug, and ticked show structural integrity. And what this does, highlights everything in green as you can see. But the longer something is unsupported, the redder it becomes, until it goes bright red and then falls off. So you can, with structural integrity, figure out the absolute limits of support before you need to make another pillar. Once you connect the building with the ground or a foundation, something that is also bright green, the rest of it above will also go bright green, and you'll be able to build without things falling over. Number 9 for me is the fact that you can harvest rocks. I didn't know this till much later in the game. If you've got no deposits nearby and you're desperate for few resources, you can switch to your drill, right click, select stone removal, and any rocks that look like this lying around you can attack and you'll get some resources from them. Now it is completely random what resources and how many resources you get. You'll only get around about 10 or so of each, and it is quite random. Sometimes you'll just get crushed stone, others iron, but if you keep hammering away at different rocks you will probably get most of the basic resources: your iron, your silicon, your copper, and maybe even your cobalt, although don't quote me on that one. Or nothing at all. Number 8 for me is when you come across your first POI, you're going to start looting containers, and you find things like this, and you'll probably do this, drag that over to your box and move on, which is fine, but you can also hold shift and left click to instantly move that over. Alternatively, most boxes have this arrow in the top right which will move everything over. That's especially useful if you come across a box that has more than one thing in it. However, for me personally, I always do shift left click. Force of habit, I guess. Now number 7, when you do finally make it to your first POI, it's good to understand the difference between what small arms fire can do and what explosives can do. So I can see a couple of Xerax soldiers standing behind that door, but what they don't realize, once I've done a quick cheeky reload, is that I can shoot through this door and they will start pouring out. But I was able to destroy that door with my small arms fire. I didn't need to use explosives, and for most cases I can get through the doors using my machine guns, and then I just need to use my explosives for some of the harder blocks later on. Oh, they're tough little buggers, these ones. Alright. So yeah, I know from experience that these types of blocks, which are vertical transparent, they're basically shutter window blocks. I can't damage them with my machine gun. I can fire at it all day, but if I hover my multi-tool over it, in the bottom right it says hit points 1200 out of 1200. I haven't done a single point of damage to it. What I'm going to need to do is use something with a bit more firepower, so I'm going to whip out some explosives. I know that 1200 is going to take a lot of explosives, so I'm going to stick all 5 on there, run away very quickly. And the explosives, well in this case, they still haven't destroyed that block, but they destroyed the core behind it, and that's all I needed it to do. Those 5 explosives did about half the required damage against that shutter door. In hindsight, I probably should have come back here and blown the shutter door up, which only has 200 hit points, and 2 charges would have done that. Nonetheless, I think it proves the point between small arms and explosives. Number 6 on the list is knowing the difference between thrusters required for hover vessels and thrusters required for small vessels. So small vessel is your flying ones, and your hover vessels obviously hover. Now on a small vessel you're going to need thrusters in every direction, at least one in every direction. in order to make it fly. So that's your up, down, left, right, and forward and backwards, basically. I would put another one under there, but I can't get underneath it for now. But let's do that. There we go. So there's one thruster in every direction. That makes an SV, whereas a hover vessel, you just need your two-dimensional thruster placement, so your forward, backwards, left, and right. So it's much simpler. In theory, much less thrusters required. But basically, your hover vessels, they don't go up and down, they just go on the 2D plane, whereas your SVs go on a 3D plane. And we can see over here with ones that I built earlier, the Nightshade here has got thrusters on the top, the bottom, the left, right, forward, and of course backwards. Whereas the drill hole maker thingy, which is a hover vessel over here, has only got thrusters on the front, back, and sides, although we can't see them because, well, they're buried under everything. But they're there. There. You get the idea. Basically, hover vessels, think 2D plane, SVs, 3D plane. Okay, number 5, which is actually quite good because you might have noticed me doing it on the last point, is that you can change the rotation and axis of rotation for blocks. So I can choose by right clicking here a slope block, for example, and I can rotate that. Well, I've mapped it to middle mouse, but I think it will be it's the home and end keys on your keyboard. But you might want to remap that fairly early on because that's a bit of a pain. But yeah, you can rotate it, and it will rotate on the green bar there. Depending on what you've mapped your rotate buttons to. You can also change the axis though. So if I want to rotate it vertically, for example, I could change my axis to the pink one, and it will rotate vertically. I can go through the axis and rotate it horizontally as well. So change axis is insert and delete. Rotate is home and end, but personally I've changed the mapping of those to mouse buttons for me. You'll probably find that it will be a lot easier to rotate and build once you do the same. Number 4 for me is recycling. So when you're done with a base or you've just taken down a POI, you should deconstruct it if you want, of course, by right clicking on your multi-tool and then select disassemble, and it will give you the parts back. So I can see here the 8 concrete parts I have here that I've just disassembled. Now if I go into my blueprints here and choose, let's say, a base to factory, I can then shift left click to place those blocks in the factory, and it will start building up the resources for that build, for that blueprint. Eventually you'll be able to spawn that blueprint in, and all those bases and things that you disassembled make it worthwhile when you see the finished product in all of its glory. Number 3 for me is the creative tools available. Once you actually get into the game a little bit more and you go into creative mode for the first time, there are a number of tools that are available to you that just are not available within survival mode. You've still got things like the end menu, and you've got stuff like symmetry mode, where you can create a symmetry when you're building something just by clicking N, select symmetry plane, the plane you want, and then click on the block you want to apply it to. You can apply it to the middle of the block or either side of it just by clicking on the general area you want it to apply. But other such things as that aren't available in survival mode, for example, are things like copy and paste. So if I wanted to copy these 2 rows of blocks here, I would go to selection and the end menu, click and drag the mouse over the area that I want, select copy. I then move this to where I want it to by dragging the arrow in the direction I want it to go, depending on which direction will depend on what arrow you drag. Or you also drag on the second of the 2 arrows rather than the one. The one arrow is a single click, move it 1 block in that direction, so on and so forth, whereas the double arrow is a drag. Okay, so once it's in place, you can click paste over here, paste again to confirm, and then you're done. You can copy and paste entire sections of ship. What you can also do is once you've before you've pasted it, you can click on the little black ball in the middle of these arrows and it changes the selection availability. One of the options is to rotate. So I might just paste it once to see it, double click the ball to get my arrows and rotate it round whichever direction I want it to be in. And then I can paste again once I'm done. You can also use this thing to delete, remove selection, clears everything. It takes some practice, but it's pretty good once you get used to it. The other thing as well is under your color and texture tools, you've got replace mode, which is great. So replace mode will replace anything that you target, any texture you target or color, with the selected one. So I want to replace the entire texture of this ship to hazards. I click on my replace mode, I click on my texture, and then I fire it out. Therefore I can change that to that. Now what I can do is apply multiple textures, but say I only want to change one of them to these lights. So replace mode, and it'll only change the ones that I target to the one that I selected. So very, very useful tool. Very similar on the color tool. So I can paint several colors here. Nope. I should get it right. And then using replace mode again, I can paint the entire thing, but it ignores anything else that I target. But bear in mind, obviously, as you change more colors to one color and then replace that, more stuff will get replaced. So just be careful with that one. Number 2 on my list is factions. Now I'm in a single player session here, so it's a little bit difficult to show you, but factions is used for multiplayer sessions. So I can go into my PDA, which is tab, and then select factions at the top here, and I can create a new faction. Set a faction name and a faction abbreviation, and you've got your own faction. Now, for other people, say your friends, if they go into factions, they should now be able to see your new faction and be able to click apply on that faction. Now, as you're the owner of the faction, it's up to you to click on them and then click accept in order to allow them into the faction. But what factions really allow is collaborative working and teamwork. On a multiplayer server, that's vital. If you're on your own, you might struggle a bit. But factions allow you to build bases, ships, and share resources and such between each other. And my number 1 is the P menu, otherwise known as the control panel. For any ship, base, vessel of any kind, it has a control panel, and you can get into that control panel by looking at it and pressing P on the keyboard. Okay, and when you do that, this screen comes up and it's got all of the information and options available for that ship, base, vessel, whatever it is. Everything's in here. Okay, so the most important thing is, going off of the previous point about factions, if you want to be able to collaboratively build something with your friends, both of you need to be in the faction first of all, and then whoever placed the starter block, the core of whatever you're building, you need to go into the P menu and you need to change the build to the faction, okay, using this little drop down here. So it will be on private, set it to the faction, and once that is done, your friends will be able to work on the same building as you. Alternatively, if you want to keep things private, you can set it to private, but because you're in a faction, your faction will not be able to attack it. Well, they will be able to if you're in a PvP, but they shouldn't. What I mean is the turrets won't automatically shoot it. Other things about the P menu as well, it's an absolute treasure trove of information, as you can see, and there's a lot of depth in here. you've got fuel and oxygen states. If it's a CV or a warp capable SV, you've got your warp tank, ammunition loadouts, hit points and health of everything up here, just underneath where we were in the factions. You've got power left, which is very useful to see how much power is remaining in your ship or base. Of course, your general has got all your basic power on, power off kind of commands. So if you're parked on the surface of a planet, you're not moving anywhere, you want to turn your thrusters off, which will save a significant amount of fuel. If I turn them on, 71 hours of power, turn them off, 165. Custom groups over here, so you can give this custom group. So for example, I can call that RCS. I can then go into the devices tab, and providing my devices are ordered, I can find my RCS group here, and I can assign that to the RCS shortcut that I just made on the main menu. I can now turn off my RCSs as well, which save even more power. Not a lot, but you know, it's worth it. You could do that for any of the groups. If you want to do it for devices, they need to be in a group. For example, this repair bay is not in a group, therefore I can't assign it to a shortcut. I can set ungrouped to a shortcut, but then that might include other things that I don't want to turn off. So just if you're doing groups, just select the thing that you want to add to a group, and then you can add to group, select the group you want to add it to, and so on and so forth, or add a group first and then add the device to that group. You can also use the auto group feature here, which is a good starting place for grouping. That will do something like this. It is slightly annoying because it puts your thrusters in directional groups rather than just in one big group, but now that you've got the main thruster switch on general, it's not too bad. Signal logic, I'm not going to go into signal logic too much. In fact, I'm not going to go into it at all in this episode. It's not what this is about. But I have done some videos on signal logic before. Check them out, as has some other YouTubers as well. Check them out if you want to learn more about signal logic. And statistics. Statistics obviously just tells you everything you need to know about the ship, base, or whatever it is you're in the control panel of. Down here in the overview, you've got all your directional meters per second and things like that. You notice how they're all 0 at the moment. It's because my thrusters are off. I turn them on, it then populates with data. So just so you know, if you're like, why isn't anything, yeah, you need to turn your thrusters on. And if you turn your RCSs on, you then get your roll. Simple. Yeah, I don't know why it does that. It should be able to figure it out, but yeah, you need to have everything switched on in order for that thing to populate. But anyway, that is my 10 things I wish I knew before playing Empyrion. I hope you found this list useful, informative, interesting, and maybe even, if I dare say, a little bit entertaining as well. Let me know in the comments what your 10 things you wish you knew before you played Empyrion are, and how they compare to this list of 10 things. It'd be really interesting to see that. If you liked this video, please do smash that like button. If you didn't like this video, then feel free to hit that dislike button, and I'll probably go and cry. If you want more videos about Empyrion and other such stuff from me, then make sure you absolutely destroy that subscribe button to join me for more videos in the future. Thank you very much for watching. Again, I hope you enjoyed this video, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.